Assassin's Creed Hexe can have the best stealth system of any Assassin's Creed games, or the best graphics, or the best world. But regardless of those, if it fails to present a riveting story that will have players wanting more, or actor performances and captivating cutscenes that leave us in awe, it will have the same fate as AC Shadows, a mediocre game that is just okay and will eventually be set aside early in its post-launch cycle. And if you don't believe me, just look at recent games. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a turn-based adventure that wiped every award in the industry. While this is not solely just because of its narrative and performance, those played a giant role in making the game one of the best that has ever come out. From start to finish, Clair Obscur had me strapped to my seat because every line, every dialogue, every story beats added flavor to the experience. I felt Gustave's pain as he watched Sophie fade into dancing petals, knowing that he'll never hold her again. This is despite me just being 30 minutes in the story. Then at the end, I had to pause. I had to contemplate whether I wanted to destroy a mother's final grasp on her long-dead son, or push the family into moving on. It was just a captivating story that made you feel and wonder. And in the end, it left you staring at a screen, thanking whatever gods may be for the brilliant minds from Sandfall Interactive. Then looking somewhere close to home, games like Ghost of Tsushima and Yote also garnered positive feedback. While I cannot exactly say for Yote since I haven't played the game, Ghost of Tsushima has one of the best written narratives in its genre in recent years. The whole game, its world designs, narrative, and overall direction were all guided by the conflict within Jin, between his eagerness to save his people or the duty he has to his family's honor. And despite the game guiding Jin to eventually embrace the ghost and leave his honor behind, there were always those little tidbits of doubt sprinkled in dialogues and environment. Things that made an observant and insightful player feel rewarded when they noticed them. Then more recently, we had 007 First Light. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's the first AAA game from the last decade that could fit perfectly in the stealth genre, aside from Hitman World of Assassination. Similar to the games I mentioned, First Light has a well-made story that does an amazing job of captivating you, which was further highlighted by the game's design as a story-driven action-adventure. While I wouldn't say 007's story is as emotionally heavy and thought-provoking as Clair Obscur or Ghost of Tsushima, it is beautiful and engaging enough that you'll want to see what happens next. And Assassin's Creed Hexe, at the very least, needs to add something similar. Hexe needs to have a beginning that will make us want to see more. A beginning that will break hearts, anger minds, or even disgust the soul. In a good way though. Then in the middle of the story, where most of the gameplay will happen, there needs to be highs and lows for Annika or Elsa, or whatever her name is going to be by release day. There needs to be beautifully mock-up cutscenes accompanied by soul-moving music and graphics that are not just realistic, but expresses the emotion burning within a scene. We need to see her cry, smile, whimper, scream, laugh, while also feeling authentic and not forced. And if AC Hexe somehow does this masterfully, it wouldn't even matter if the stealth gameplay is flawed, if the parkour system is still inferior to the early games, or if the world isn't as beautiful as Egypt or Japan. Once players scream in their echo chambers that the story is amazing, the rest of the flock shall follow. I think the best example here is Ghost of Tsushima. When you ask people what's a good stealth game from recent years, a lot of people may say Ghost of Tsushima. And yet if you break it down, Ghost of Tsushima has a very basic stealth design. I mean, for a start, the game's level design is actually pretty poor if you compare it to actual stealth games. 90% of enemy camps have no verticality, and once you see like 3 or 4 camps, you basically played all the types of levels. Enemy AI is also pretty simple, yet people see Jin and the game itself as a great stealth experience, as the best Assassin's Creed game in the last decade. And I believe this is all because of the narrative, because the narrative continuously pushes Jin into acting as a sneaky character, as the ghost. And so even when you spend half the time engaged in combat against enemies, parrying and blocking, you'll still remember the Ghost of Tsushima for how it made you feel as the first shinobi. And that is the power of a good narrative. It doesn't just move the game forward and give you reason for creating new levels or areas. It also creates an illusion, an amplification of the role-playing fantasy that players may not even realize exists. Story is such an important part of a game, especially now when almost every mechanic under the sun has been created. And for games that focus heavily on stealth gameplay, a genre that hasn't seen any innovation since a decade or two ago, story is much more vital. This is why I believe great indie stealth games like Gloomwood and Filcher are somehow bottlenecked, forever trapped at an angle where they couldn't tap the casual crowd. The devs, as much as I thank them for their work, just don't have the budget and maybe the know-how to present a great story via amazing cutscenes and emotionally heavy music and ambience. And it's not their fault. It's just that circumstances force them to a different path. And so with AC Hexe, a game made by a quadruple A company with millions and even billions to spend on development, I think it would be the wisest thing to ensure that the game's story is its best aspect. Because believe me, even with mechanics straight from Assassin's Creed 1, a game could become an instant 10 out of 10 with just a great story.